Welcome in, Loons fans, to another edition of the Matchday preview. Jonathan Harrison here, joined once again by co-host Manny Lagos. Manny, how are you doing today on a Thursday afternoon?
Doing well. I mean, this is kind of like your show, Decision Day. It's your
I
this
love Decision Day.
you do. So we all do. We all do. Yeah. Excited for our guest today as well. So it's going to be a good week. We're down to one more regular season game.
Yeah, absolutely. As Manny teased there, our guest today, the play-by-play voice for the radio broadcast, the voice of the Loons, Dan Terhaar. Dan, normally I don't talk to you until Saturdays, but here we are on Thursdays, chatting it up, Minnesota United. How are you today? A couple days before Decision Day, one of the best days of the year, one of my favorite broadcasts that we do each year.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited about it too. Every year that I've been involved in Decision Day, I just love it more and more. It's a pretty amazing day for soccer fans.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. All the Western Conference games, bar Seattle, who's out in New York, synced up at the same time. 8 p.m. Central Time kickoff for all of those. Half times as well. The second half kickoffs will be timed up as well. So that will be a cool little added twist to Decision Day, where it's not just the first halves that are synced up, it's the second half. So trying to get all those games to end at around the same time, barring, extended stoppage times and whatnot. But I'm looking forward to it. Always one of my favorite days. Manny, a little peek behind the scenes, usually for Decision Day on the radio side, I move from my normal analysis role during their broadcast to basically watching the other games and keeping up to date on the other scores. And I'll pop in every once in a while with, hey, this team scored, this is how it affects the standings. And I usually bring like 2 or 3 other screens. So I steal my kids' iPads for the day and have those set up on Apple TV and watching those games while we're broadcasting our own games. So it's always a miracle of technology to get everything work on Decision Day, and looking forward to it. So we've got plenty to discuss. Obviously, we've got some MLS action over the last week to discuss, international stuff to discuss, and preview Minnesota LA Galaxy on Decision Day. So let's jump into, I don't know, Manny, I'll let you pick. Where do you want to start? You want to start international? You want to start US men's national team, or do you want to start with the MLS action?
Let's start international. Let's just go there, and then we'll go into, particularly because of the scenarios of LAFC losing that game to Austin. We can kind of do our scenarios for us, but what's probably on everybody's mind is the break and the kind of 2 good results. So
U.S. men's national team in action.
This podcast on a feel really like I told you. I think we're gonna have a good vibe about the national team.
Yeah,
going into the podcast.
You predicted it, and it came true. Couple good results, couple good performances. A 1-1 draw with Ecuador, 1-1 there, and then a 2-1 win, come from behind win against Australia on Tuesday night. Manny, your overall thoughts on what you saw? I know you're positive off of what you saw. Overall thoughts on what you saw from the team, and where your vibes are at heading into, I guess, the November window, and then we're off to the races towards the World Cup.
Yeah, you know what I kind of found fascinating about this window is, for the first time in a while, kind of the mainstream media and press and fan base, started to kind of talk and parrot some of the things Pochettino's been trying to say the last couple months. So instead about who's being called in, or even tactics, what system, I think what stuck out is the line of, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And how that became the talking point to the fan base and to the media, because I think that is a great discussion about maybe where we need our national team to be, based on the fact that maybe we don't have a lot of superstars. We have a deep pool. I think we have the deepest pool out of Mexico and Canada for sure in this region of the world. And so that's going to be a key sentiment, and I just liked it. I mean, I think it applies to a lot of what we're trying to do at Minnesota United versus the rest of the MLS league. And I think at the end of the day, it applies to a lot of companies and people that are building teams or building cultures, how important that is. That's not to say that quality of player, nor the strategy / tactics of how you're going to have those 2 other kind of pillars elevate you at chances of winning games. But it was just nice, because I think it kind of evolves our national fan base to remind ourselves that this group still has another 8 months to evolve. And let's be in that storytelling growth together. I just had a good vibe. And so I'm so glad that, combined with 2 really good games. Ecuador, I thought we showed really well for 90 minutes. So it was a nice game, and it's unfortunate we keep on getting down in these games, but because of the way we're playing, it feels like we're not going to lose.
Yeah, for sure. Dan, where do you stand with the U.S. men's national team heading into hosting the World Cup next summer?
It's kind of interesting because I was just thinking about what Manny just said, and it is I'm trying to figure out, and maybe Manny has a good answer for this, but that cultural shift you're talking about, is that just something that's happened because of the passage of time? Is it because of the rise of the MLS and the continued popularity in this country? The quality of players are getting better. What do you think is the reason for that shift?
So I think it starts out with, and I actually don't. I'm not ripping on the level of the knowledge of our U.S. soccer fan base. I think this happens everywhere in every country in the world, and there's this balance of, we want a coach that can be the secret sauce, and then you want this coach to be brilliant, and you want him to fix everything. And the reality is, almost always, a lot needs to be fixed, not by the coach who him personally can do, but by trying to create that culture environment that's right to get the most out of the players. Now, again, within that, tactics and system and getting the most out of the players that you have at your disposal are massively important. So that strategy side really always has to be pushing the culture side to say, I want to be more relevant. But I think what Pochettino did is he said, guys, at the end of the day, I'm only as good as tactics can be as if I get the culture right. I'm only as good as I can be if I, build the quality of guys believing that they're world-class players. So I think one of the things that I've felt we've come to grips with is we actually don't have a lot of superstars on this 2026 World Cup roster. I think 4 years ago we were more hopeful because of the guys' ages where they were when we had the World Cup in 22. We were hoping we'd have some world-class superstars. We just, unfortunately, we don't. And I just think it's taken a while for our fan base and for people to understand and involve and say, okay, this is who we are. And let's look at our strengths instead of our weaknesses.
Yeah, it felt like, as you mentioned there, Manny, coming out of the 2022 World Cup and building up to the home World Cup, we were expecting, there was a lot of U.S. men's national team fans expecting us to have a handful of superstars going into this World Cup and be up there among the top teams in the world going into this, but that's just not how things have played out, and it's taken some adjusting, and it's been interesting to watch that develop. I know there's been some really, really down times over the past 4 years, and it seems like after these last two games and after the last couple of games anyways, the U.S. men's national team are starting to trend upwards. We'll see how that continues going into the World Cup, but some good, strong performances. I want to start with the strikers, always one of the big talking points with this team, Manny. Balogun scoring in the first game, Haji Wright scoring a brace in the second game. Who's going to be the favorite for that number 9 spot for the U.S. going into the World Cup after what you've seen? Is that changed, or are we still very much up in the air with that?
So I think what's exciting for me is I think Balogun still has like the front runner to the starting position, but it's 8 months away.
Right.
My viewpoint is I just was so excited to see Wright play so well. And to see him now develop into kind of this, I would say, a really classy star striker in Europe. I'm like I said with the rest of the team, I've come to grips that we will not have, like, there's only a couple teams in the world that have superstar number 9s.
Yeah.
So we need not just one, we need 2 or 3 really informed, high-level, serviceable number 9s that, yes, they can score goals, but they also do all the other stuff because, again, I think our strength is going to be the depth of our pool, not necessarily like a superstar 9 that gets us through a World Cup. I cannot tell how encouraged I was with Haji Wright. Those were 2 great world-class finishes. He played himself into a game against an Australian team that actually reminded me of Minnesota United in terms of their defensive structure and organization. Very hard to break down, very organized, very good individual habits defending by Australia, and very good collective habits defensively. And he was up for the task. I mean, he really ran between lines, and when he got his moments, 2 world-class finishes. So, and Balogun had a great game against a very good Ecuador team, a very better teams in South America right now, dangerous. So I'm just encouraged by both of them. Ultimately, to me, we're leaving the window now with we have 2 guys that are potentially going to be our go-to guys for the World Cup.
Yeah, and it was exciting to see, Dan, was that this attack that has kind of struggled over the past couple of years at times really looked like a problem for Australia and Ecuador to try and handle and try to shut down in both those games.
Yeah, and what I like about it is if you were playing a regular season schedule, you'd stay with the hot hand, right? You'd go with Wright and see what kind of role he was on. It's so different when you've got now months or a month or so before the next international window. What I think is a big benefit for the U.S. men's team is you saw anybody that's trying to figure out what the U.S. team is going to do. They're going to look at two matches, Ecuador and Australia, different formations, different goal scorers, and if that continues, it makes it I think it makes the men's team much harder to prepare for. There's some versatility there. What formation are they going to run? Who's going to be up top? So yeah, like Manny was saying, now you're showing you've got a little bit of depth up top, and yeah, as we know from being close to the Minnesota United team, you need some guys up front that are competing for a spot, guys that are pushing each other, and it just makes that whole club stronger.
Absolutely. Manny, one of our favorite MLS players, Christian Roldan, getting the assist on both of those Haji Wright goals on Tuesday night against Australia. He seems to have played himself back into the picture for the World Cup. And I know there was a time there where he wasn't getting call-ups, and there's a lot of people wondering who know this league and know MLS and watch MLS week in, week out, and specifically Seattle, wondering why he wasn't getting called up. But he's shown exactly why he deserves a call-up and why he might be in the squad come World Cup time.
Oh, he is one of my favorite players in MLS of all time. Every time he steps on the field, he's thinking about, what do I need to do to help the team win that day? Some days it's just plugging holes defensively and shoring things up. Other days it's arriving late in the box or finding a way to draw a PK, or this game, 2 brilliant assists. Like, just really, and what I love about him, he's at this age where he's been through everything, he's seen everything. His brain and his body, athletically and mentally, are kind of at their peak. I don't think it'll last much longer in this World Cup in terms of just how much week in, week out he's given to the game, particularly at Seattle, but even for the national team. And I just love it. I love the fact that you got a player that really reminds everybody that our national team strength is not going to be superstars. I know I kind of highlighted that before. It's going to be the group, the unit, and we need selfless guys going out there and doing selfless things. And Christian Roldan fits that to a T. And this game in particular, 90% of players messing up. And it's fair to say he messed up on Australia's goal. He did not get back and tuck in. He kind of fell down and just looked awkward on the play. He got better. 90% of players would have checked out. They could have mentally had the confidence to get back into the game the way he did. And that just shows where he is in his career. He's that confident in himself that he can be an additive participant in helping the team be better that day.
Do you think he's secured himself a spot in the World Cup roster, or is there still too much time?
I mean, the reality is you've got the November window, then you've got March, and then you've got the realities of injury. So yeah, it's, to me, he's trending massively towards making that World Cup roster. I just think that's where we are right now with almost everybody outside of like 4 or 5 guys like the Pulisic of the world who, if they're healthy, they're in. But if you saw the quotes from Pochettino, who articulated much more romantically awesome about soccer than the way I am right now, that was huge praise, talking about how he is really kind of a little bit of everything in the best sense of the word of a great soccer player. And I think it's interesting because there's been this debate about MLS players versus Europe. Again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He's trying to find informed players that are additive to the group. And last night, or not, was it last night? 2 nights ago, you had Freeze do really well. Robinson showed athleticism. Obviously, Roldan was out there. Luna came on, and I would say he's clearly not better than Pulisic, but he was additive. And then once Pulisic went out, because I think Pulisic is still maybe trying to impact the game too much in areas of the field where we maybe don't need him to, Luna came on and was additive. We actually got a little bit better when Pulisic went down. That won't be the case, by the way, by the World Cup. We're going to need him to be the best version of himself. But it's an example that there's a nice synergy between some of these MLS guys who are playing well right now who are additive. And certainly we had some European guys in this window that show that we've got some really great quality players in Europe.
Yeah, it was encouraging to see the U.S. be able to be, I guess, effective in the attack end without their best star player in Christian Pulisic after he went down injured in that Australia game. Dan.
I forgot it, but I forgot to mention Freeman, by the way. What a great
Oh, yeah.
Freeman is, by the way. He is really outstanding. You know, the funny thing for me about the national team too is I still tell people, and I'm going to say this to you like probably 100 times more leading up to the World Cup. I still think the strongest position in the world we have is our wingbacks. Anthony Robinson, best left back in Premier League last year. Serginho Dest has played for Barcelona, has had some injuries, but he's going to be healthy, hopefully knock on wood, by the World Cup. Those duo, I don't think there's a lot of teams in the world, maybe France, maybe Spain, that have two players of that level in those positions. And they weren't even on the field last night. So again, I'm excited. I really enjoyed Morris when he came on. That was exciting to see him. I enjoyed Testman when he came on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I thought Sands was okay. I thought he's still going to be one of those ones that's going to really have to have a couple great windows to make the team, I think, just from what I saw the other night. But it was really encouraging. Two really good games and different types of opponents where we saw problems.
We've now got, after this international window is done and sealed up, 28 of 48 World Cup spots spoken for. I'm not going to go through the list of teams. There's a lot already, obviously. Where is your excitement level at this point for the World Cup on home soil? Dan, I'll start with you then, Manny. As we've seen the U.S. build up, getting into a little bit of form, the rest of the world starting to qualify and starting to see teams, see which teams are going to be at the World Cup. Where's your excitement level for this tournament coming up next June?
You're watching these last two matches. It's pretty high. What I like to look at is, the team as a whole. Sometimes there's players that are so dominant that the team with the best player wins the World Cup. But those are your Pelés and your players that just can change every match they're in. If you don't have one of those players, you've got to have the team chemistry, the culture, as we talked about earlier, and you've got to have those role players. And I always go back with my hockey background to the 1980 Miracle on Ice team with Herb Brooks. That's what he had. He didn't have the best players in the world, not even close to it, but he had a culture and he had all the players on the same page and he had role players. And that's what excites me, I think, about next summer's run is they don't have, as Manny said a few times, they don't have the superstars, but if the other pieces are there, the culture is there, and you've got the right players to come off the bench in the second half and make changes that'll impact the match. That's what excites me about this team is, fine, stay under the radar because you don't have the superstars, but be ready when the World Cup starts and play with that passion that you're going to have and that intensity level. And I feel like they took a big step towards that on these last two matches, especially the come from behind win against Australia.
Manny?
Yeah, I mean, I love Dan's bringing up the Olympic hockey team because it resonates not only with how we need to approach it as Americans, but it also resonates as Minnesotans and just how I think our club even kind of thinks about being competitive in the long term in a very competitive MLS. I think the area that I'm going to lament a little bit is I still think I'm lukewarm about the excitement off the field. I still think I need to get over the ticket prices and some of the stuff I don't like, and I'm a little bit frustrated given that I thought we'd be further along in terms of the excitement of the sport and hosting a World Cup. But maybe to Dan's point, our guys can get us excited. Maybe they can build up the next 8 months now some quality soccer that makes us feel like we can make a run and go pretty far in the tournament. I felt that these two games. I felt more excited about the depth of the roster, some of those things that Pochettino's trying to do and get across to the guys. I am really getting more bullish about that center of the midfield with some of the unique players we have. I like I said, I'm not there yet. I'm still, because it is 8 months away. I don't want to get too excited, but it does feel like this is the first time in 4 or 5 months where the excitement of the World Cup is starting to ramp up and our national team level is starting to ramp up. And I like that. That gets me excited.
Finley's is a mission-driven pet brand redefining what it means to do business with purpose. Founded in 2016 by two former special education teachers, Finley's was created to address the staggering unemployment rate among individuals with disabilities, a community too often left out of the workforce. Every purchase of Finley's products supports real, paid job opportunities and community development for people with disabilities through the company's inclusive employment initiatives. From job coaching to community engagement, Finley's is creating a future where everyone has a seat at the table and a chance to thrive. Follow Finley's on Instagram at GetFinleys. I feel like in the time we've been doing this podcast over the past couple months, Manny, this may be the most optimistic I think that you felt about this team. It's coming through a little bit, your optimism for this team based off those two games. So that gets me excited for this tournament and what the U.S. can do. Because I know coming off the summer, there was a lot of angst and consternation about what this team was going to be able to do and how well they would perform next June and July. So looking forward to the buildup continuing on that. But first, we've got MLS action to discuss, jumping into some league play from this last weekend. Notably, a couple of results here for the Loons. Obviously, last week we talked about Manny, LAFC getting a 2-0 win over Toronto that jumped them in the standings over Minnesota, bumped Minnesota down to 4th. But LAFC finally lose after 6 games. Winning a 6-game winning streak. It comes to an end against Austin on Sunday night, a 1-0 loss for them. That means with the Vancouver result, which we'll talk about in a little bit, Minnesota enter the day on 4th place. But because of that Vancouver result, eliminated from the chance to claim the top spot in the West. Your thoughts on both those games? Obviously, the Vancouver game had a ton of drama. We've got the ball that pretty much went over the line, but wasn't called because for some reason in the year 2025, we don't have goal line technology. I don't know why, but we don't. And that certainly would have ruled that goal in, and we would have known the result a little bit sooner. But Thomas Mueller continuing to be impressive for Vancouver in key moments. It's not just the goals, the amount of goals and assists he's coming up with. It's when they're happening. It feels like that it's always impactful and helping Vancouver get a result in those matches, Manny.
I love it, Jonathan, because you started out thinking we were going to talk about LAFC, and rightfully,
I went all over the place there.
I know, and I love it. Rightfully so. We have to give credit to Vancouver. Yeah. What a result on the road. What a battle against a very good Orlando team. Vancouver's been doing this all year. Everybody thought when gold went down. Everybody thought when black went down. Everybody thought after CONCACAF run where they were going to be too tired in the legs. They seem to be getting better and better. And to go on the road and win a game that puts you in control of winning the West was just unbelievable. I mean, this team has dealt with adversity and resilience all year, and they have stepped up. I mean, you have to give credit where credit is due. This is one of the more impressive kind of resilient seasons I've seen of any team in MLS, and they deserve it. I mean, going to Orlando and getting that late win, Mueller's goal, and they were boss in that game. You knew that was a team that wants to win the West. I mean, I would be shocked if they don't get a tie or a win at home, just based on how well they managed to put themselves in the driver's seat for winning the West.
Yeah, Vancouver playing FC Dallas on Decision Day. They're hosting Dallas. Here are the other games that we'll be watching on Decision Day. LAFC at Colorado for that one, and then San Diego at Portland. So Portland already locked up a playoff spot they're in. They just don't know where. They could be in the wild card playing game, or they could be in that number 6 seed. So they're still, or 7 seed, excuse me. They're still trying to figure it out. Dallas, they're still playing for their playoff lives. So they're certainly going to give it a go on Decision Day, but they'll be without their top 2 strikers who are suspended for the weekend. So it'll be interesting to see what Dallas does. But Dan, exciting stuff from the weekend that certainly had an impact for the Loons. Obviously a heartbreaking impact in that the top of the West is still, or is now unavailable, but they can still get up to second should they win and a couple of results go their way.
That's what makes Decision Day so exciting. You're looking at Minnesota. 2, 3, and 4 are all in play. I thought the last couple of weeks, I thought LAFC was just going to, with the games ahead at hand, just surge to the top and would win the West. Up until they lose to Austin. Vancouver got that impressive win. Now I'm not so sure. I feel like Vancouver and LAFC have kind of, pushed themselves in the best spot to being, the top of the West. But you know what? They could, they stumble. We take care of business with LA, and 2 is still in play. But this is what decision day is all about. And I think it's better every year. And I think synchronizing the second half kickoffs is just added to that. And I know over the last, 5-6 years, we've had our moments, our disagreements with what MLS does as a group. But decision day, man, I think other leagues should be looking at a similar format, because I think it's amazing. I don't. There's nothing like it in any other sport in the United States, and I don't know why more sports aren't going to this type of a format, because, man, it just puts everything into one little bundle, and it's so exciting, and yeah, it makes for one of the greatest days in sports.
Yeah, and you've seen baseball start to do it in the past couple of years, putting all their games on the final day of the season all at the same time. But looking forward to decision day. Here's where things stand at the moment in the top four. Vancouver and San Diego are the only teams that can claim the top spot in the West after Vancouver got the win on Saturday, and then LAFC lost to Austin on Sunday. LAFC and Minnesota, they can also claim second place, but they have to get San Diego to lose. Seattle locked up for fifth. Austin locked up for seventh. Portland in seventh, Austin for sixth. Portland currently in seventh. They've locked up a playoff spot. They don't know where they're going to be. And then there's four teams battling for the final two spots: Dallas, Salt Lake, Colorado, San Jose. Before we jump into the Minnesota side of this conversation, Dan, I'll start with you. Who makes the final, or who are the two teams out of that group of four that make the playoffs?
Boy, it's going to be tight. For some reason, I keep thinking that Colorado's going to find a way in.
They had to get a result against a really hot LAFC team.
Right. And maybe that's just me hoping that we get some help. I'm not sure. I'm trying to get in my own mind on that one. But when I looked at it yesterday, I thought Colorado might slide there. Or else, I guess the other thing I looked at it, maybe it just stays as it is right now.
Manny, who makes it? Manny, who makes it in your mind?
I like Dan's Colorado prediction. I mean, the reality is they're at home, altitude. It's definitely a decision day kind of advantage for sure. I'm worried about Dallas if Colorado wins, because now you've got Dallas is playing at Vancouver, celebrating Western Conference Championship if they win. I think they're without Musa, they're without Farrington, so I think that feels to me like that one feels like a loss. So then Dallas would stay at 41 points. Colorado would go to 43, correct?
Yes.
And then who does RSL have?
Real Salt Lake is playing at St. Louis, who have already been eliminated, and there's no chance they will claim the wooden spoon. So there's literally nothing on the line for St. Louis.
Yeah, I think San Jose's got an outside shot. I think I'd put RSL in there then, and take out Dallas. So then it would be
San Jose's playing an Austin side that have locked up the sixth spot. They can't move up. They can't move down based off tiebreakers. So there's not really a whole lot they're playing for other than just staying in form heading into the playoffs. So that's a San Jose side that could take advantage of an Austin side that may or may not sit players. So there's definitely a lot going on decision day, Manny.
Yeah, there is. And so that means that our San Jose would go up to 41 if they won. Again, that would mean that RSL and Colorado would have to lose. I think they've got the longest shot. If I'm looking at that. I'm going to throw in there. I like Dan's spot of Colorado and RSL for me. And partially Dallas is out, even though I think they've had a great second half of the season. They just suffered their first loss since Acosta left, and I thought that was a pretty impressive run of 8 games, 4-0-4. And Kurt Cole, I think, has done a really good job there. And I think they were hard done by the red card, but unfortunately now they got both their forwards out, going to a really tough place to play to get a result. I think they might be in trouble.
Yeah, that's going to be a really tough one for Dallas, considering they're losing their top 2 goal scorers this season. But as you said, really great turnaround for them after selling Acosta in the summer transfer window after he clearly just didn't want to be there anymore. But they've really done a good job of turning things around and being competitive up to decision day. Unfortunately for them, they're running into the buzzsaw that is Vancouver. So let's jump into, unless you guys got any other notes from the weekend that was in MLS and decision day as a whole. I know we just skipped the whole Eastern Conference side of the bracket, but pretty much everything is locked up there.
Well, John, I just wanted to hype just one more Minnesota thing.
Yeah.
Because Dan said it. we take care of business.
Yep.
It's a tricky game. LA Galaxy are the champions of MLS, and they've got a lot of good players in the field this weekend. They will play them. They're not playing again for months. They're going to play their guys because it's their last competitive game for months. So it will be a tough lineup. It'll be a tough game. But if we win, the way I look at it is, do we really think that 2 away teams will win on decision day? And I just don't think so. My gut says if we take care of business, either LAFC or San Diego, one of those 2 teams will drop on decision day away, potentially both. So I do think it's a really fun weekend for it to be a Minnesota fan. It's about us winning and finishing strong and potentially going into playoff momentum. But even more so, my gut says we end up second or third if we win.
Yeah, I guess my only pushback on that is that San Diego have been ridiculously good on the road this season. The last time they lost away from San Diego was back in May. Like, it's been such a long time since they've lost on the road. They've been ridiculously good
on
away
turf,
from home.
at Portland.
Yeah, a Portland team that doesn't want to play in the play-in game again.
Yes,
like they did last year when they got beat 7-0. Yeah, there's a lot on the line for Portland, obviously. Let's jump into this LA Galaxy match. Dan, as we discussed, LA Galaxy at the bottom of the West. I think they've pretty much got that one signed, sealed, and delivered for the bottom of the West, unless they can get a win at the weekend and Kansas City lose again. But this is a team that, based off their win over Dallas at the weekend, are out of the wooden spoon race, so they don't have to worry about that. I don't think there's a way that they can win the wooden spoon, if that's what you want to call it, winning it or losing it or whatever. But there's not a whole lot on the line for LA Galaxy other than just pride at this point. And this has been a tricky spot for the Loons. I mean, the last time the Loons went to Dignity Health Sports Park, we all remember it painfully last November, a big loss in the Western Conference semis. There's quite a bit of tension here for the Loons going into a tricky game at the weekend.
Yeah, I think, the good thing is that this roster and this team is a lot different than the one that had that really tough end of the season last year out in LA. Different with some personnel, but I think just a different attitude and a different mindset going in on some momentum from a nice win over Sporting Kansas City. So I think it's going to be a tough match. I think it's going to play out like we have seen most of this season. I think we, probably end up at halftime. Good chance it's 0-0. And as we know, things tend to open up in the second half. And I think Minnesota, with the position they're at now, it's a healthy club. I think it's a confident club. I think they get the win, but I don't think it's going to be easy.
Yeah, Manny, your thoughts on? I guess your insights onto what we should expect for this match at the weekend. Peck and Paintsel probably getting the start on the wings. They've been in good form lately. Still no Ricky Pooch. He's not playing this season. And that's been probably one of their biggest losses for the season, is not having one of their best playmakers. We've talked about that plenty already this season, but Peck and Paintsel still both guys that the defense will have to find ways to shut down at the weekend.
Yeah, you just said our defense. I will start there because that's been our theme all year. I guess the keys would be don't give up a goal in the first minute of the game. I think that is really important. I mean, we've been really good at not giving up early goals, and that really hurt us last year. That really set a team that we gave them a lot of confidence. So I do think giving them confidence, particularly a team like this, we don't want to do. We have to win the soccer game, meaning that I think if we play the better soccer on both sides of the ball, having been through this, it's so hard for a team that wants to just have an easy game and get through their season. They want to attack. Like I said, they're going to want to play well.
Yeah.
But it's easy to think that way. It's another thing to do it as a group to execute when you're in last place in the West and you have nothing to play for. And then now we make it hard for them to have to play good soccer for 90 minutes. So I do think the key to the game for us is good quality, balanced soccer. And by the way, that's a little bit less of our defensive identity we've had on the road all year. I think Eric's gonna have a big choice between how we played last week against Kansas City, back four, versus a back five. My gut says he might stick with what we had last weekend because he does want to kind of get that mentality of the Galaxy not being hungry to play honest for 90 minutes. And then when that happens, yes, they have great offensive players, but defensively, and it showed last week against Dallas, they are not playing structured defense for 90 minutes anymore this season. So that means we have to play soccer. We have to move the ball, and we have to be good defensively. We can't give up early goals because that will embolden them quite a bit.
Is this one of those where, because there's essentially nothing on the line for the Galaxy, everything is there to play for the Loons? If they can get the win, they give themselves a shot at getting a second place in the Western Conference based on other results. But because there's nothing to play for LA other than just pride at this point, if you get an early goal, can you essentially put this game away early, Manny? Is this one of those situations?
No, because they've got too good of offensive players, and they'll have some pride. It's a weird one. Even scoring early, it's more about how we play and really shut down and limit the spaces they can go into with their offensive players, and then how we move the ball, because they will open up defensively if we play good soccer. So it's going to have to be more of a 90-minute game. They won't quit after 10 minutes. They've already dealt with the fact that they've had such a bad year, and again, they'll be hurt by the structure and organization of their team over time, not because of one moment that we score one goal.
Yeah. Dan, Manny mentioned it there a little bit ago, the defensive formation, and I guess the tactical setup for the Loons. We saw a 4-man backline for one of the first times this season against Sporting Kansas City a couple weekends ago. What do you expect from Minnesota this weekend going into LA in the backline for Minnesota?
It's sometimes hard to change when things go well. It's hard to change it up. That's why I kind of agree with Manny. Maybe stay with that. But what encourages me about not only the game against LA, but going into the playoffs is when you get to this point of the season, it feels like playoffs. And what happens in the playoffs, goals a lot of times get harder to find. Things are tighter defensively, which is, to me, the way this team has played the entire season. You don't have to make many changes from what you've done all year. And I totally agree with Manny. Scoring early for us would be great, but this isn't the way this squad has played. It's been rare we've had multiple first half goals. You don't bury teams with the way we play. But again, I think the way that Eric Ramsey has this team playing is built for playoffs. I mean, we've played that tight defensive, especially in the first half. It's been all season long. The defense has been lights out. Whether it's you're playing with 4 back there or 5, it's been very consistent all season long, and that's what you need going into the playoffs. So I think this team is in a really good position to get out of there. Like I said, I don't think it'll be easy. I agree with Manny. You're not going to put them away early. You're going to have to work through 90 minutes to get a 1-0 or 2-1 victory.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Eric has a tough choice. Coaches do every time, what system and who you play. Both those are big decisions. Probably a little bit easier that he could go with one or the other. Versus, let's say we were playing LAFC and we had to deal with Son and Bouanga. I think it becomes more obvious that the way we really played with the back 5 lines up better, more than likely, with that. So this game, I think there's more options to go one or the other way and see how it goes. And that's those are always tough decisions. But I do feel like, given how we played against Kansas City, there's a lot of ability to dominate the game. And I could be wrong. We could score a goal and they could Galaxy say, that's it, we're going to shut it out and not play anymore. My gut says if we get those kind of goals somewhere in the beginning of the second half, or it feels like that's an easier time for their brains to shut down and not compete.
Manny, what's the latest on the injuries? Just seeing some of the pictures come out from the social media side, Kelvin Yeboah traveling with the squad. I know that's been kind of up there of whether he'll be available. You mentioned that there's a possibility that he could play in past podcasts. What's the latest on, I guess, that injury front based off of Yeboah's availability for Saturday?
Well, that's a good sign that he'll be available for minutes. Again, you're not traveling him that distance and taking away that many rehab days unless you think it's important he's there and has a chance to give minutes. Now, again, with these kind of injuries, it's going to be really measured in terms of minutes, really, especially because the playoffs are right around the corner. But it certainly is a good sign that he's traveling, and that means that he's been training, and I think it has a good chance of being available for the game.
Yeah.
Probably
Looking
not
forward.
starting, obviously, but
Yeah. Also, on the note of this weekend, the final weekend of the season, we've seen that the end of season awards voting has been open now to media, and up there for contenders. And we've seen the club put out their pushes for Dane St. Clair for goalkeeper of the year, and Michael Boxall for defender of the year. Dan, where do you stand on those guys being favorites? Are they your favorites in the league, or is there someone else that might be able to take those awards away from them? Because it seems like the growing consensus, and this may just be Minnesota sports fan bias, that those guys are front runners for both of those awards.
And let's face it, I'm a homer. So, yeah, I think they're both front runners. I think they should both win. I would like to see them both win. I feel a little stronger about Michael Boxall, and maybe that's because of where he's at in his career and just what he means to this team. I think sometimes it's. I know that he gets a lot of appreciation, but sometimes I think it's really underappreciated at times for what he does. And we talk a lot about that during the broadcast, the energy he still brings. Sometimes guys looking over the shoulder and can't believe a 37-year-old guy's about to catch him from behind. And I'm so impressed with everything he does. And, on top of that, he's an amazing human being. And Dane St. Clair, to me, should be one of the front runners as well. When I think about Dane's season, I look at how close he came to 2 or 3 more clean sheets on the season. Late goals that shouldn't have happened, not necessarily his fault. And the way he started the season, I thought at this point he would have surpassed Vito Manoni's 11 clean sheets by a couple. So it kind of was an up and down and season for Dane at times. Not up and down like whether he was good or not, but just as far as the clean sheets went, just kind of hit a dry spot there. And again, that's so much more about everything around him than it is the goaltender himself. But I wouldn't be surprised if they both win. I think that would be asking a lot, but certainly wouldn't surprise me. I hope it goes well for both of them.
Manny, they the favorites in your book?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm biased though, but yes, 100%. Everything Dan said on steroids. It's what starting with Dane, what a special year, becoming number 1 for Canada, becoming a real leader for us,
Yeah.
and really getting better with his feet and really showing that he still has a lot more in him and growing. So I feel like there's a couple other goalies out there that have done well, but definitely I think it's shown. And then I think Boxall is, you have to give our team credit for the leadership we've shown. We are, I think, the only team in the league that hasn't lost 2 in a row in regular season. That's some serious leadership. That is some serious, guys, we're not going to panic. We are going to make sure next game we're ready to go again, type of stuff. So couldn't say more about somebody who's been with the club since its iteration. Has been unbelievable for us.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how those guys come out. And I think I'm going to echo your guys' sentiments. I think for me, and again, may just be biased, but I think they should be front runners for those awards. And I think should be the second time Minnesota's locked up defender and goalkeeper of the year in the same season. So looking forward to that. Any other final notes from you guys on decision day as we head into it? 8 p.m. kickoff for Minnesota United, LA Galaxy, as well as the rest of the conference, Western Conference. And then second half will be timed out as well to kick off all at the same time across the league. Dan, I'll start with you. Final notes going into decision day. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I can't wait. I think that, it's for Minnesota, it's just continue what they've been doing. Talk about players of importance. We talked about Boxy, and we talked about Dane St. Clair, how important they are. But I want to make sure people realize how important Joaquin Pereira has been to this club this year. And the fact that the only reason why we aren't talking about him is because he plays a position where basically he's competing for honors against the best players in the world. It's very difficult. And also on the leadership side of things, I think it's been a quietly really great season for Will Trapp. His veteran leadership and his calm presence on the pitch are so important to this team as we go into this decision day and then into the playoffs. Those are all valuable to me, such valuable players at this time of year, especially.
Yeah, for different reasons, obviously. Pereira's the offensive quality combined with his work rate defensively, but Will Trapp is another one of those that it's almost like I don't think people thought he was going to play at this level still, both on the field and then what he gives to the group as a leader is through the roof. So he's had a great year. Great year.
Yeah, absolutely great year.
Hey, Jonathan, by the way, we didn't talk about the East. I feel bad, although it's a little less decision day with
Yeah, there's not a whole lot on the line there. Philadelphia has already locked up Supporters Shield. They locked up the #1 spot. Basically,
4,
the
5,
biggest
and 6,
story.
maybe, right?
2 and 3 are still up for grabs between Miami and Cincinnati. 4, 5, and 6, as I'm looking at the standings, are still, as you said, up for grabs as well. I think Orlando, just kind of doing the math in my head, they can't get above 7, so they're pretty much locked in where they're at, but they can fall down to the wild card spot. But all those spots in the East we know who's going to be in the playoffs there. It's just a matter of seeding. And I guess the biggest question for me, we talked about Chicago a couple weeks ago, finally making the playoffs for the first time since 2017. Do they make it as a full-fledged playoff member, or do they have to go through the wild card round, Manny?
Where do they go to New England?
Yes, they have a game at New England.
Yeah, I think they sneak up. I think they get the win on the road.
Orlando's at Toronto, and then Columbus is playing against New York Red Bulls at home.
Ooh. So basically Orlando would have to lose. Or Nashville. Whoa, Nashville could go down. Who does Nashville play?
Nashville could. They're playing Miami.
Oh, yeah.
They're hosting Miami on decision day.
There's some excitement at the bottom there, right? I'm gonna like be pro Chicago like all year and say that they will get straight up playoff spot with the win.
I like it.
Nashville, Orlando losing.
Wow, I like it. That's going to be exciting stuff. I'm looking forward to decision day. It should be fun. It's always fun, always hectic. Join Dan Terhaar and myself on the radio broadcast side starting at 7:30 on 1500 ESPN and the Score North mobile app and live.1500ESPN.com. Kickoff at 8 p.m. for decision day all across the Western Conference. Looking forward to it. Dan, we'll talk to you then. Manny, looking forward to decision day. This should be incredibly fun. Always is every single year.
Thank you.